On this part of the episode, I want to come with arguments that people usually have for online dating websites. So I'm going to outline three major statements that people make for online dating website. So statement number one: Abraham asked his servant to go back to his homeland to look for a wife for Isaac. It's not the same thing as online dating website, because you're using expert to match you up with someone. It's just the same thing that Abraham did. He asked his servant to go look for a wife for his son Isaac. So what's the big deal? That's a good argument, actually. That's a good argument. When we look at how Abraham approached marriage, his son's marriage, he is first of all, I'm sure he could have gone to his homeland by himself, but he was probably old and probably didn't want his son to go back to his homeland because it's his only son. He probably was protective. So this is something that probably, I'm sure, Isaac could have done himself. So, but that being aside, the servant that Abraham used is not just any servant. He's using someone who is God-fearing. This is someone who he was a trustworthy person who was serious about the matters of God. And even when we see the servant going to Abraham's homeland, he comes to a point where he could have said, you know what, the journey was long, I had enough time walking or being ridden by a camel or whatever animal he was riding. I'm tired, let me just pick any woman. He could have just been like, let me look, this one looks nice, she's thin, she has a good way of speaking, or this one. But he did not do it because he understood that marriage is so much more important than outward appearance. And we see that's in Genesis 24. We see that he comes to a point where he just realizes that this is so much more that he can handle. And he goes into the Lord in prayer and he say, God, you know the heart of man. You know who's there that is fit to be my servant's wife. So please, God, intervene in this matter. And God shows him the one that was supposed to be Isaac's wife. When we use online dating website and we use an expert, we're not even sure what the spiritual state of these experts are. We don't know, are those people who are after God's own heart, are those people who are God-fearing? I mean, we're just putting our trust in them, and they use just the outward appearance. Again, they take your profile and they take what you want in a person and try to match that up. But it's so much more than that. I mean, when you look at that story, again, it's so much more than looking at the outward appearance and looking at what you want and what he wants, but it's really looking inside deep and seeing the spiritual state of the person. Statement number two: I know of couples who met online and are doing great. So what's the big deal? Now, that's a great question, and there are two ways to answer that question. First, they could be the couple that you know who met online and are doing great. They could be doing great by God's grace in spite of the approach that they used to meet. And I'm going to use a passage that's in Ruth chapter 3. And when you see the story of Ruth, Naomi, when she, the first time that Ruth comes back from Boaz's field, Naomi, when she hears about Boaz, she's so excited. Oh my goodness, may God bless that man. And when she hears it's Boaz, she knows that Boaz is one of the kinsman redeemer. She knows that he's one of those redeemers. She knows the tradition, and she knows that before Boaz, there's someone that comes first. But in Ruth chapter 3, she asks Ruth to go to Boaz and say, you're the next redeemer, and I'm open for marriage. And when you look at the setting that Ruth goes in, I mean, she's dressed up, she's smelling nice, she's just put on some makeup on, who knows. And she goes at night when the guy is drunk, when the guy is sleeping, and she goes to lay at his feet And when he wakes up, she's like, oh, you're the next kinsman redeemer. I'm open for marriage. And we know that this approach is not right, because Boaz says, yes, I'm a redeemer, but I'm just one of the redeemer because there's someone that comes before me. So yes, I'm a redeemer, but that's not the proper alignment, because there's someone that comes before me. And Boaz tells Ruth, you have to get out of here before it gets daylight, because people are going to see you and your reputation will be ruined. So that tells you that the approach that they used, that Ruth, that Naomi told Ruth to use, was not according to God's plan, because here Boaz is trying to even protect her. It's like, the way that she came in is not really appropriate. But God, in spite of that, in spite of Naomi's thinking process, still blesses Ruth and Boaz, and they get married and have a beautiful son. So that's an example of people who got blessed in spite of Naomi's way of using the approach. The second answer to that, so the question here is, I know of people who met online and they're doing great. The second answer is probably the most difficult to say, is they're probably doing great temporarily. And I do not mean that in a mean way. I do not mean that to curse or bring bad luck to anyone or wish bad luck to anyone. But if we look, there are certain examples in the Bible. If we look at Abraham, when he was waiting for a child from God, his wife Sarah got tired and she said, okay, just take my servant and do what you want to do, but we need to get a child from you. We need to get a child from you. And Ishmael is born, and at the time, it's good news. He has a son, so he has a heir, and things are going to be good. But then we see that later on, that was not God's will for him. Ishmael was not to be the son through which the promise was going to be fulfilled. And even after that, he parted with Hagar and Ishmael, and we see the repercussion of the Ishmaelites even up till today. We see the consequences of that disobedience, that it was not blessed. God did not bless that union with Hagar, and we see that up till today. Argument number 3. The Bible says, delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you your heart's desires. So if I'm going on an online dating website and I say I want a man who is this tall, who has this kind of money, who rides this kind of car, who has this body type, who looks like this and look like that, wouldn't God give me my heart desires? Another great question. If we see this verse, let's first consider the first part. It doesn't say the Lord will give you your heart's desire, but it first of all says, delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you your heart's desire. Delight yourself in the Lord means that you should make God your number one priority. God should be He should be just your God. You should just love God with all your heart, mind, soul, strength. God should be your number one priority. He should be your lover. Nothing, no one can separate you from God. You are so in love and so intimate with God that it's just like your world revolves around God. And then, the closer you get to God, the more the things you ask are in alignment with His will or alignment with what He wishes for you. And here, when you say, I want a man like this, I want a man like that, I want a man like this, that's not really a desire, because a desire is much more something that is burning. You can't really say, oh, I'm burning for this man to be this height. I just would desire a man that is 6 feet tall. I just desire, it's my longest, it's like within me there's nothing but a man who looks like Tom Cruise, a man who has brown eyes. This is my uttermost desire. We don't say that. We say we want a man who has brown eyes, but you can't put it as a desire, because a desire is much more than that. To end up, to close actually this episode, I wanted to leave you with a great verse that I found in Jeremiah 17. Jeremiah 17 Jeremiah 17 verse 9 to 10 says, "The heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? I, the Lord, search the heart and examine the mind, to reward a man according to his conduct, according to what his deeds deserve." Wouldn't it be much better to put our trust in God, who searches the heart and examines the mind? Wouldn't it be better to put our trust in the one who created man, who knows the spiritual state of any human being, than to rely on someone, just as God led Eve to Adam? That's what we should be looking for God to lead us to the person that He has destined for us. Okay, ladies, that's the intake on online dating website as promised. I'm gonna put in the comment in the description box. I'm gonna put in some links to articles about online dating. And if you have comments, any questions, anything you want to say, please drop them below in the comment. Until then, take care of yourself and stay blessed. Bye.